Welcome to Discover Janesville. My name is Yuri Rashkin, and today we are guests at Kudos Coffee Shop. We're sitting here on Main Street in downtown Janesville. And our first guest, is Terry Thomas. This part of the program is underwritten by the Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. Terry is lots of things, as many of our guests, and Terry, you started with GM many years ago.
Many years ago, 1974.
1974. And you were there until?
June of 2004.
2004. So you put in your 30 years?
In my 30 years, retired.
And you retired.
Yep.
And now you're a county supervisor.
Yeah, Rock County supervisor. Was elected April of 2008. So we'll be up for re-election here again next spring.
Isn't every county supervisor?
Yep, every 2 years.
All 29?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Yep.
See, I was curious. Your nickname is T-Bone, right?
T-Bone.
How'd you get that?
Just one of those things that, on a freak moment, somebody says it and it sticks.
And all of a sudden, for the rest of your life, you're T-Bone.
I've been T-Bone for 25 years or better. It's just one of those things that stick.
It's a good cut. It's a good cut.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Some people play on it. Sometimes they get called porterhouse, and sometimes they get called ham bone. You know, so I mean, some people play with it, but it works for the most part.
That's good. And you started going to school before you actually retired.
Yeah, I started at Upper Iowa University, which is out of Black Hawk Technical College, in May of 2002.
Okay. You decided to go into accounting?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in accounting.
It's very impressive, because there's all these math classes that are difficult for some people, a lot of people, okay?
Yeah, excuse me. Math does kind of scare some people, but nowadays if you learn a computerized system, the computers will do most of the math for you.
Oh, okay.
But we did it all by hand calculators and stuff, because you get partial problems and they wanted us to do it by longhand.
Trying to think, what are those old-fashioned things where you had the little bowls on the...
yeah. What
abacus.
Abacus. Yes.
Abacus. Nobody uses abacuses anymore.
Nobody uses an abacus. No.
Cool.
It used to be the way to do it, though.
So, what made you think before you start? You were still at GM. You know, things are going well. 2002, and you go. You know what? Probably earlier than that, because you have to make that decision before you go to school. You start in 2002.
Yeah, I probably thought about it for 6 months before I actually did it, and they had a sign up for the next quarter.
Okay.
And they used to come down to the plant to do that, and I just went and got some information, and I think probably the next quarter I signed up and started. But there were a lot of people from General Motors that participated in this. A lot, I guess, is a relative term, but...
you say a lot and people envision crowds, you know?
Yeah, but I'm going to say probably 30 to 100.
Okay.
Enough for a couple classrooms, at least, probably come from General Motors, and at times some of the classes I took were mostly General Motors employees.
And how long was the program?
Well, it's a 4-year program.
Okay.
Once I retired, I kind of took my time. I stretched it out. I graduated in 6 years, but certainly could have been done in 4 years easy enough.
So how was your experience being at school? Was it kind of intimidating because you were probably older than most students there, or?
That was one thing to get over is the difference in ages. I mean, you have a lot of younger adults that are also employed, and this fit in well with somebody that's working. They had mostly night classes, and you only had to go for 2 classes, you'd only have to go 2 nights a week.
It's not bad.
But it's a long session. They're about 5-hour sessions, which gets a little long in itself, too.
Wow,
but yeah, the transition, especially when I hadn't been in school in 30-some years, was a little daunting at times. But, yeah, I've had some very interesting classes.
You said that you've taken some classes that you probably wouldn't have thought that you'd be subjects that you wouldn't have explored otherwise.
Yeah, and diversity type classes, I would say, cultural classes, and I found them to be interesting in that they kind of dispelled the beliefs that some people have, and it's not always true. You know, and it's until you understand the religion and the culture, you can't understand how they think. And
Good point.
We may sit back and think that they're not being rational, but in their culture and their religion, they're absolutely being rational.
So that kind of allowed you to look at things in a little different way. And
Yeah, like be on the other side of the door and look through a window type of thing. I thought that was pretty amazing. And then, of course, I've always been interested in math anyway, so the math part didn't really bother me.
Well, that's an interesting point, that you go to school, but it's so much more than just the classes that you have to take for that particular major. There's all these other opportunities to learn all these other different things that, like you said, you wouldn't have ever thought of looking at before, but all of a sudden you have this wider cultural perspective, and you're an accountant at the same time.
Right. We had an introductory marketing class. And when you see an advertisement on television, you don't really get the perspective of what it took to get to that advertisement. But all the thousands of surveys and stuff that they do at stores, there's a reason why this product is sitting in the middle and another product is sitting up on the top and another product is sitting on the bottom shelves. There's reasons for that.
Well, and we are, all of us are professional consumers,
Yep.
but we don't know sometimes why things are the way they are, and because it's a science almost.
Yes, it is.
So what was the most interesting thing to you about that class?
About the marketing class? That I almost outsmarted myself.
How does that work?
I actually paid attention to the instructor, and we had to do certain plans every week of the course.
Okay.
On a company. She wanted us to pick a particular company and do a certain project on it. Well, at the end, she wanted all the 7 weeks that led up to this all correlated to the end project. And when I stayed focused on the one company, I had it all done. All I had to do was put it all together in her format. Where some of the people picked a different company every week.
I see.
And then they would have to pick a final one and do all the research and stuff
all over again. So
it made it quite more hectic for them.
It's good thinking.
So like I said, almost outfoxed myself there, but it worked out well.
And now you're a county supervisor.
Yes.
Is it challenging?
It is challenging. It's humbling. I recently switched from Planning and Development Committee to Human Services Board, which is a much larger committee and deals with more, I don't want to say problems, but it has more services for the county. At a time when people are cutting budgets, we have more people that need services, and it's very challenging to sit in those meetings and try to figure out how we're going to become more efficient so we don't have to tell people we don't provide that service any longer. That's going to be the hard part of this next upcoming budget, because we're going to lose over $1 million of state revenue that we normally get at a time when we have more people to serve than we've ever had before.